What is up, everybody? SchwayZ here, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing the Lucid Air Grand Touring and telling you 5 things you should know before you buy one. Now, before we get started, I do want to extend a huge thank you to EV Auto for giving me the opportunity to review this vehicle for you all today. If you guys are in the market for an electric vehicle, make sure you reach out to them and let them know that SchwayZ sent you. They have a large assortment of different vehicles, including many Teslas under $25,000. I'm going to put their information down in the description below. Okay, so here we have the Lucid Air Grand Touring, and full disclosure, I'm a little biased because I love the Lucid Air. I've honestly considered it as a vehicle for myself, but in the end of the video, I will explain one big reason why I will not be buying one, even though my heart really tells me I want one. But I digress. Let's get back to the video. So what is Lucid? Well, it is a startup electric vehicle maker that actually traces its roots back to 2007, where it was formerly known as Ativa, and it was a battery pack maker. Well, when the former head of engineering at Tesla, Peter Rawlinson, left the company, he came to Ativa and he essentially rebranded it as Lucid, and they began developing this electric vehicle. So it is a fully electric sports sedan that has about the same proportions as a 5 Series or a Mercedes E-Class, but the interior room of a flagship sedan like the S-Class. And in today's video, we'll talk about the 5 main categories or things you should know before you pick one up. To kick things off, let's talk efficiency and range. Now, Lucid is truly an engineering marvel. Some of the technology they have here is stuff that you won't find in any other vehicle, and that really starts off with the coefficient of drag, which is 0.197. This is the most aerodynamically efficient vehicle on the road today. The only thing closest to this is the Mercedes EQS, but other than that, this vehicle is extremely aerodynamic. Now, the Air is able to accomplish this through a variety of different methods. First off, you of course have active aero down here at the bottom, but most cars have that nowadays. However, there are some other design cues that aid to the aerodynamic efficiency of this vehicle. One of those is the fact that you have this little air curtain that goes across the side of the vehicle, and then here where you have your headlights, you have also a little bit of an air curtain that goes all the way into this hood area. So that, along with this curved front bumper, helps with the aerodynamic efficiency of the front end of this vehicle. Now, as you come across the side, you'll also notice it does have a very teardrop shape to it, and of course that assists in its aerodynamic capabilities. And then coming across the rear end, everything from their deck lid spoiler to little flaps that they have down here integrated into the plastic. In fact, on the bottom of this vehicle, the front and the rear end is kind of curved upwards to assist in the aerodynamic coefficient of drag for this vehicle. So everything with this car is focused on efficiency, and because of that, this particular Grand Touring has a max range of 516 miles. That is class leading. No other electric vehicle has as much range as the Lucid Air. Maybe now you're starting to see how this is truly an engineering marvel, but wait, there's more. Moving further along on efficiency and range, when you open up this charging flap, you will notice that this one has the CCS adapter. So starting in, I believe, 2025, they will be integrating the Tesla NACS charging standard. So then you can actually plug and play at any Tesla supercharger network. For now, Lucid will be sending out a little adapter where you can plug in to Tesla supercharger networks, and you can use the infotainment screen to find out which ones are capable. But that's not what I wanted to focus on. What I wanted to discuss is the peak charging rate of the Lucid Air, which is also among some of the best in the industry. I think the closest one to this is the Porsche Taycan, but this vehicle in the Grand Touring trim can accept upwards of 300 kilowatts in peak charging. Now, to give you kind of a frame of reference, if you're looking at like a Rivian R1T, that's somewhere around 220 kilowatts. So this is well above the Rivian R1T and well above anything like the Nissan Ariya or some other electric vehicles I've reviewed. That is truly astonishing figures. Now, for those of you that know electric vehicles, you'll know that it's important to know how long it can maintain that peak charging rate. And it's definitely better when this vehicle is mostly drained and the battery is preconditioned. But nonetheless, 300 plus kilowatts of peak charging is insane. And Lucid says you can charge upwards of 200 miles in just 12 minutes, assuming you find a fast charger capable enough of hitting that over 300 kilowatt speed. Now, one of the reasons this vehicle can accept upwards of 300 plus kilowatts is because this particular vehicle runs on a 900 volt architecture. This is, to my understanding, the only 900 volt electric vehicle you can buy. Some of the most advanced EVs you can buy today, like the Porsche Taycan, like the Hyundai Ioniq 6 and Ioniq 5, those run on the 800 volt architecture, and then the majority of Teslas, aside from the Cybertruck, and Rivians run on the 400 volt architecture. So there's definitely some electrical engineering involved to determine the peak charging rates, but if you have a 900 volt system, you can definitely accept more charge, and you use less wires inside of the vehicle. So it makes the vehicle a little bit lighter, a little bit more efficient, and it allows for peak charging rate above pretty much any other vehicle. This is the fastest charging EV when it comes to peak charging rate. Now, you may be a little bit worried about finding a 300 plus kilowatt hour charger because there's really not that many out there. They're definitely getting rolled out over the next couple years, but as of today, it's not as common as your typical level 2 charger. Rest assured, if you plug this vehicle in at home in your typical AC outlet, this vehicle has an onboard charger that can charge this vehicle 19.2 kilowatts per hour, which is, I believe, a class leader, or really up there as some of the fastest onboard chargers for an electric vehicle. A lot of them are somewhere around 9 or 10 kilowatts, so this is almost double the speed. And according to Lucid, that will allow you to get about 80 miles of range per hour when you're charging at a level 2 charger at home. Now, I think talking about range and efficiency, we should mention the different trim levels. So as you can see here, this is the Lucid Air Grand Touring, and there's currently 4 trim levels that you can get of the Air. So there's the entry-level Pure, which only comes in rear-wheel drive. Then you can step up to the Touring, which is probably the one that's going to be sold in the largest volumes. Then you step up to the Grand Touring, which is essentially the top of the line trim level, except there is one more, which is the Sapphire, but that is primarily performance oriented. Now, aside from the Pure, all the others come with a dual motor setup, except for the Sapphire, which comes with a tri-motor setup. Now, the reason I'm discussing the trim configurations in terms of range and efficiency is because depending on which trim level you get, you're going to get a different battery configuration. Now, as I'm sure you know, the batteries are all laid out across the bottom of this vehicle because it's essentially built into the frame. This is a ground up EV, not like an internal combustion that's been converted. Now, in terms of the battery configuration, if you choose the Pure or the Touring, you're going to get the smaller 92 kilowatt hour battery, technically about 88 kilowatt hour usable. However, if you step up to this Grand Touring trim level or the Sapphire, you're going to get the larger battery pack. It's the extended range. This one comes with about 112 kilowatt hour usable battery. Now, one of the ways that they packed in more batteries for the Grand Touring and the Sapphire is actually by eating into a little bit of the cargo space inside of the second row. Jumping inside the second row, you'll notice your floor is a little bit higher in the Grand Touring and the Sapphire because they fit an additional 4 battery pack modules underneath the passenger seat and underneath the floor. So it does compromise a little bit of your leg room in the second row, but the benefit is larger range. Now, the Pure and the Touring only come with an 18 module battery pack, and for that reason, you have a little bit more leg room in the second row. However, the range is definitely a little bit more compromised. In the Pure with the rear wheel drive, you're still at a pretty whopping high number. It's 410 miles. Stepping up to the Touring, it's 411 miles. And like I mentioned earlier, this being the Grand Touring, you have 516 miles. And then with the Sapphire, because you have the tri-motor setup, it's a little bit compromised, but you're still 427 miles. Regardless of whatever trim level you pick of the Lucid Air, you're getting over 400 miles of range. That is absolutely insane. And this really is the answer for those of you that have range anxiety. This can go a longer distance than any other gas-powered vehicle with this much horsepower. Speaking of horsepower, let's move on to the second thing you should know about this vehicle, and that is its performance. This isn't just a fuel-efficient, green, earth-saving vehicle. This is also a high-performance sports sedan. In this Grand Touring trim level, like I mentioned earlier, you have a dual-motor setup that produces 819 horsepower and a whopping 885 pound-feet of torque. This has more horsepower and torque than a Dodge Challenger Hellcat. I would know because I own one. And doubling down on the fact that this is an engineering marvel is the fact that these are the most powerful electric motors for their size. Lucid says the weight of each electric motor is only 163 pounds, and it's smaller than your average airplane carry-on. It's truly impressive what they've been able to accomplish as their first vehicle out of the gate. Now, in terms of performance specs, 0 to 60 is 3 seconds flat, and you have a top speed of 168 miles per hour. However, even if you choose the base Pure rear-wheel drive, your 0 to 60 is still 4.5 seconds, which is quicker than probably 90% of the vehicles out on the road today. Now, it's not just about the electric motors here. You do have an adaptive suspension in the Lucid Air. It's not your typical air suspension. It's just a dampening system that you find in a lot of other vehicles, but it works really well in this application despite this being a very heavy vehicle. You also have these 20-inch wheels, Michelin Pilot Sport tires, which help put that power to the ground on all 4 wheels. Okay, now talking about performance, let's get this thing on the road, see how it drives. This one being the Grand Touring, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds flat. I want to see how that feels and how it compares to some other EVs I've reviewed on the channel. Okay, so we're actually going to put this vehicle into the sprint mode. We're going to confirm that, and we'll just do a little gas here to see how it feels. Whoa! Okay, that is wicked quick. Wow, that is... Oh, wow. Man, it's almost quicker, over like 30 miles an hour than it is 0 to 30. This is plenty of power. You don't need the Sapphire. In fact, you don't need this. You just need the regular Pure. Is probably quick enough. I haven't driven the Pure yet, but boy, this is motion sickness inducing roller coaster levels of power. Wow, this thing is very, very quick, very powerful. And you do hear those electric motors. That's not piped in. And it's not overboard. It's just enough, and it sounds really, really nice. Now, since we're behind the wheel, a couple things to point out here. There is a little bit of a creak in the steering wheel. That's something that a lot of Lucid Airs have had. And again, that's something that kind of comes with the territory when you're buying a new vehicle from a startup. Now, if you take it in for service, I've been told that Lucid Air has really good customer service experience and they'll be able to fix anything. And I believe the warranty does transfer on used vehicles, so you don't have to worry about that if you're picking up one that's slightly used. But other than that, I've been really impressed with the build quality of everything else. There really hasn't been any rattles, anything that's really sounding like it's breaking or anything. Even this headrest, which I hit my face with, I've been told in other videos that this is kind of flimsy. I don't think it's flimsy at all. I think it works perfectly fine. So don't let all the comments about poor build quality get to you. I mean, there are things that could be better, but that kind of comes with the territory when you're buying something from a startup. The upside, though, is you're getting something that's really unlike any other vehicle on the road. It looks different, it drives different, it feels different, and the technology here is really, really cool. Now, one thing I will point out is with this glass canopy, even though I love it, I do think that it lets in quite a bit of heat. So if you live in a climate like Arizona, where it's consistently over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, it's gonna get a little bit warm inside. Now, in my brief experience working with this AC, it seems to be working pretty well, and it could cool down the cabin, and you do have second row air vents, but just kind of keep that in mind. I love the way it looks, and I think I would take that sacrifice, but I also don't live in Arizona. Now, to finish off the performance section, let's talk about how this feels driving over speed bumps or dips in the road, and we do have some pretty bad roads here. And I've driven over a couple speed bumps back there. There's some over here on the road I'm driving on now. And I'd say the suspension is very, very comfortable here in smooth mode. It's definitely softer than some of the Tesla products I've driven. The road I'm driving on right now is kind of a rough stretch of road, and I've driven this on the Rivian as well, and it just felt a little bit rougher. This soaks up bumps pretty well, considering this isn't an air suspension. I would say it's pretty close to Mercedes quality of ride comfort. Maybe not quite, but very close, very impressive considering this is just a regular adaptive damper system. Now, the next thing I want to discuss is the design. This is definitely something you should know about this vehicle because there are some really unique design attributes or features that I want to point out. Now, I did already point out the fact that you have those air inlets on the side of the wheels and through the headlights, but I will also mention that this is, according to Lucid, the thinnest headlight you can find in any new vehicle, and they are extremely thin. Now, part of the reason they have that air inlet located above the headlight is some people have noted that this is one of the hottest headlights that you can get as well. So they heat up very much, and for that reason, you have that air curtain to cool down the headlights. Now, I should also mention this particular vehicle looks like it has the stealth package, which is where some of this brushed aluminum is darkened to make it look a little bit more sportier. So you'll notice on the typical Lucid, this is a lighter aluminum color. Same with over here on the top of the vehicle, this is usually a light aluminum. Makes it look really nice overall, but in this particular vehicle, it's been blacked out to kind of give it a sportier appearance. And I think it looks pretty good overall. Now, jumping back to the front, I do want to point out one more thing before we discuss the rest of the design, and that has to do with the front trunk, which I have to pull out the Lucid key to show you how to operate it. So this is what the key looks like. It just says Lucid, and it's a very thin, kind of futuristic key. It fits really well in your pocket because of that curve. And there is one button here that can be used to accomplish multiple things. So if you hold down the button, it will open up your large front trunk or frunk electronically. Now, if you double tap it, it will unlock the vehicle, or if you tap it, it will lock. But climbing in front over here, Lucid says this is the largest front trunk you can find in any electric sedan. And this is 10 cubic feet of space. Now, it may not look that large over here, but that's because you have this hideaway floor, and then opening this up, you have a much deeper cubby over here. You could definitely store lots of different items. Honestly, a human body could probably fit in here for whatever reason. If you choose that you need to put a human body there, it is possible. Now, you do have a little emergency release button located over here as well, so don't get too panicked about my comment. Now, you can hold down this key one more time, and then it will electronically close that front trunk. And to finish off the front, I do want to mention how when this vehicle is lit up at night, it is gorgeous. I'm going to try to find some footage right now to overlay on the screen, but you do have your Lucid emblem that lights up, a large light bar that extends all the way from the passenger to the driver's side, and your side marker lights also light up. It kind of has like a RoboCop look to it, but I love it. This is kind of futuristic, but also kind of a mid-century modern look. It just speaks to me. I love how that looks. In case you're wondering, this particular vehicle is the Zenith Red exterior, and the length of this car, like I noted earlier, is only 195.9 inches, which is about the same size as your typical mid-size sedan, think 5 Series E-Class, but the interior cargo volume is what rivals that of the 7 Series and the S-Class. And the way they're able to accomplish this is based on those small motors that I mentioned earlier, but also because this is the electric platform, they're able to space out the interior a little bit larger than a typical internal combustion engine that has a differential, a transmission, an engine, etc. Now, coming to the back of the vehicle, you have a very similar design language as the front, where the LED taillight extends all the way from the passenger to the driver's side, your Lucid emblem in chrome over there as well, and then down at the bottom a little bit more of your black fascia with some parking sensors as well. But what's interesting about this rear section is this almost looks like a hatchback or a liftback design, kind of like an Audi A7 or a Tesla Model S, but this is actually a conventional trunk opening. So it almost has this clamshell design. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So as you open up the trunk, you'll notice the entire taillight housing lifts up with it, revealing this large opening. So the width of this trunk opening is the same width as the vehicle, and it's a pretty deep cavernous cabin. And you actually have a pass-through as well, so you could put some skis in there. And then you have little cubbies on the left and the right-hand side to be able to store different items. Now, I should mention that there is a underfloor storage over here that's actually really deep as well. And Lucid says there's about 22 cubic feet of space back here. So with the front trunk, you have about 32 cubic feet of storage space, which is a class leader for a mid-size sports sedan. Now, innovative design extends onto the inside, where you have about 6 different types of materials on the interior cabin, specifically for this Grand Touring trim, which has some of the coolest use of materials. So you do have soft touch leather material up top, you have some Alcantara suede material on the side, some nice aluminum touches, more Alcantara with brown contrast stitching. You also have more brown leather over here. This is actually a leather wrap material, which in most vehicles is a hard touch plastic. It's not soft touch, but it is still leather wrapped and not just plastic material. More wood trim pieces over here. So this is kind of a dark ash wood that extends all the way across this door piece. And then even your window switches feel really nice in the hands. They've got aluminum bezels to them. Now, jumping inside, this particular vehicle has the Tahoe interior, which is this brown carpeting or brown leather with the black leather contrast, and they look gorgeous. So these seats are beautiful to look at. They have brown contrast stitching. This is real Napa leather seats. You also have some thigh support over here. These are like 20+ weight adjustable. And then climbing inside, let's talk about the interior design, which is also one of my favorite features of this vehicle. Kind of an extension of the exterior. You have this large floating panel display, beautiful leather wrapped steering wheel. You've got more of this wood trim piece over here that extends all the way to the passenger side. Nice aluminum bezel switches here. here. And then up here, you've got kind of a dual tone type of material. You've got this Alcantara, and then you've got Napa leather located up top. Moving down here, you also have this wood panel piece that if you open this up, it kind of hides away. I don't even know where it goes because this is a little storage compartment. So it kind of twists down into this center arm console, but it makes it look like a seamless piece of wood. Looks gorgeous. And then my favorite part of this vehicle has to do with the roof. It just never ends. It is right above you all the time. Let me jump into the second row and show you what I'm talking about. So this vehicle has the glass canopy roof, and the videos and photos don't do it justice. You really have to see it in person for yourself. This is very reminiscent of a Tesla Model X, but this is the first time I'm seeing it in a sedan. So not only do you have this large glass piece that extends all the way from the front windshield all the way above the passenger and driver's head, you also have a second piece of glass over here above the passengers in the second row. And then of course you have your rear windshield as well, separated by this little panel over here. But this glass canopy is gorgeous. But talking about the second row, look at the design on the door. You've got a little bit more of that Tahoe interior with your speaker grille. And then I love how the second row is a different colored seat than the first row. So this is an extension of that brown Napa leather seat as compared to the first row, which has the black leather. You also have some fabric and wool over here. You also have your California Bear logo. There's tons of Easter eggs inside of the vehicle. And I think they just did a phenomenal job in the design of the interior and exterior of the Lucid Air. The next thing you should know about this vehicle are some of its features and amenities. So let's jump inside and go in depth of what I'm talking about. So first off, I want to talk about the door handles. So they are flush with the rest of the vehicle. And then if you have the Lucid app, as you approach the vehicle with the phone in your pocket, this vehicle will automatically unlock. And then as you walk away, it will automatically lock. But since I don't have the app, I'm going to use the key so you can double click on it and it will open up, and as you can see, these door handles pop out. Now this one being the Grand Touring, you also have soft closed doors. So as you shut it for the first and the second row, it will automatically close for you, and then it'll kind of suction cup back in. Kind of a nice luxurious feature. But let's talk about the interior amenities because that's where it really stands out. Okay, so I showed off the design here, but I didn't really talk about any of the features and the tech. So first off, this steering wheel, of course, flat bottom design, but then the functionality here on the left-hand side is how you're going to control your adaptive cruise control. So this particular vehicle has 3 different types of adaptive cruise control or safety features. You have the regular Dream Drive, which includes front collision warning, front and rear parking sensors, rear cross traffic alert. You have blind spot monitoring, regular adaptive cruise control that you can activate using the steering wheel buttons over here, and front and rear cross traffic alert. However, if you upgrade to the Dream Drive Premium, then you're going to get an optional 360-degree camera that you can automatically activate by using this button over here, and it will turn it on. It's actually really advanced. It's got that 3D kind of drone eye view, and then if you click on certain angles, it will show you exactly what section of the vehicle you want to zoom in on. But it's a very high quality camera. And then along with that optional feature is the blind spot camera that will turn on when you activate the turn signals. Very useful technology that I've seen on some other vehicles. Now, there's also the Dream Drive Pro, and that includes the highway driving assist. So that's where this vehicle will do some lane centering, and then it will come with LiDAR technology, which is like laser technology, so that in the future, when Lucid updates the self-driving capabilities of this vehicle, the Dream Drive Premium will have all of the hardware needed to be able to essentially drive hands-free on the freeway. So whether you want to pay for that for a future release, that's up to you, but that is what comes on the Dream Drive Pro. Now, on the right-hand side of the steering wheel, it's a little bit more simple. This is your typical volume control. You also have your seek track buttons and your voice activation, but I do like how this is all leather touch surfaces. And of course, this is a heated steering wheel as well. Now, moving upwards to this display, this is a 34-inch touchscreen, and it is divided into 3 different sections, unlike the upcoming Lucid Gravity, which will be one panel display, but it is a very beautiful display. It just ties into the interior so well. On the left-hand side, you're going to have a fixed panel that will open up your frunk, open up your charge port, adjust your headlights, your windshield wiper controls. All of that is integrated over here on the left-hand side. In the middle is your main display for a variety of different things, like I showed off for your blind spot camera, your adaptive cruise control functionality, and then it will also show your range and just some typical information like your audio controls and stuff like that. Over here on the right-hand side is another screen that will have your typical functionality like your audio controls, controls, you can pull up your navigation system, you can pull up your Bluetooth audio, and then you can connect, and it's pretty snappy. I will say, when this vehicle first rolled out, there were some pretty big software hiccups, and I think a lot of those have been worked out with over-the-air updates. But as you can see, it's activating pretty quickly. The navigation, is moving pretty quicker than a lot of other vehicles I've seen. And then what's cool here is, as you can see, you can, pull up this little panel over here and you can hide it away. Or if you want a larger surface to be able to type, you can simply swipe and it will show up down here. So as you can see, I just pulled up the navigation, and then I can do the same thing by pulling up this screen over here, and then it will show up in this main screen. So I like how these two screens actually speak with each other. And lastly, I will mention wireless Apple CarPlay has been added as an over-the-air update, but at this time, there is no Android Auto. I believe Lucid is working on it, so maybe by the time this video is posted, you will have wireless Android Auto, but given this vehicle has over-the-air updates, you can add that functionality over time without actually having to buy a new vehicle. Now, I do want to talk about this screen down here. This is another screen that's not included in this 34-inch display, and Lucid calls this the Pilot Panel, and it's kind of your main screen for your settings, your climate control, stuff like that. So there's 4 buttons located down here at the bottom. You can hit the main one, and that's where you can cycle through different drive modes. So there's smooth, swift, and sprint, which is your fastest mode. You always have to confirm that you're doing this on a safe road. It's kind of annoying that you have to constantly click that, but that is one of the things that Lucid makes you do. And then you also have another set of redundant controls for your side view mirrors, your steering wheel, so you can actually adjust the tilt and telescopic functionality here. You can also adjust your front trunk, your rear trunk, lock and unlock. And then up here is how you can control some other things. So you can go to openings, and this is another set of redundant controls where you can activate and open up certain features of the car. You can adjust your seats. There's tons of functionality here. So there are controls located on the seats, but this adds a little bit more functionality. So you can also change your thigh support, your headrest, stuff you can't actually do with the buttons located on the side of the seat. And like I said, this is 20-way adjustable. So lots of functionality here. You can also adjust the passenger side. This particular vehicle, being the Grand Touring, you do have massaging seats, and they work pretty well. They're up there as some of the best in the automotive industry. You can also adjust different themes. So there is different interior lighting, including this little light strip located right above you in between the glass canopy. And there's not too much functionality like you find in some other German competitors, but you can change through a variety of different colors, and you can adjust the brightness using this infotainment screen. And then you can go into your charging menu where you can open up your charge port, you can set a schedule, stuff like that. Now, down here is your climate screen, and this is where I will mention this car already has a little bit of a software hiccup. So I have this currently activated as airflow through these air vents, but I'm not actually having any airflow come through here. So I've adjusted the vents over here, I've opened and closed them, I've checked all vents on this side, and there's no airflow coming through these air vents. The only airflow is currently coming through the footwell. Even though I have this currently deactivated, I'm still feeling it in the footwell. So this is a little bit of a software hiccup that needs to be fixed, and I'm sure doing like a hard reset will fix this, but it is a little bit annoying, and that's what you're gonna have to get used to dealing with a startup manufacturer. It's not going to be foolproof, but over time it is going to get better. And I gotta say, I watched a lot of videos on this vehicle, and everybody complained about the user interface and the software, and as of July of 2024, they really have done a great job. I mean, it's very quick, very snappy to go through the different menus. I mean, as soon as I hit the button, this vehicle will automatically open up. As soon as I want to adjust the fan speed, it works super quick. So there's no lagginess here. It's very, very quick UI. It's just a little bit of those hiccups that you kind of have to get used to. And unfortunately, on a day like today where it is 89 degrees and you have a glass canopy, I kind of wish this airflow was blowing correctly. But anyways, you do have heated and ventilated seats here as well. That's kind of to be expected. And then you can also adjust the rear seats here using the front Pilot Panel. Then you have your settings menu, which is kind of like your typical smartphone settings, where you can go through a variety of different sections over here, including your Dream Drive self-driving functionality, so you can adjust the sensitivity. You can even turn off like every single feature if you choose to. So cross traffic protection, blind spot monitoring, auto park, all of those things can be adjusted. So very much customization here inside of the Lucid. And then you do have a quick access button for your 360 camera, and as you can see, pulls it up very quickly. So I really like this Pilot Panel. And one of my favorite and kind of gimmicky features here is if you swipe up on it, will actually hide away inside of the dashboard and reveal a pretty decent sized storage compartment over here. So you can hide some, belongings, and then swipe down, close it up. I mean, you can still kind of reach it over here, but it hides it out of plain sight a little bit. I should also mention you have redundant controls for your climate controls up here. So you have your temperature adjustment, your fan speed. This is your volume button as well. And it's just very well laid out. I think the software and the UI here and the way everything's positioned is done very well. Now, jumping back here, this particular seat is in its furthest most back position, and I still have this much legroom here. I mean, take a look at the passenger side. It's just a boatload amount of legroom in the second row, similar to a large flagship sedan. We're talking 36.6 inches of legroom in the second row. It's really massive. The only one downside is, like I said, since this has the larger battery pack, your knees are a little bit higher than I would like. I have sat inside of the Touring and the Pure, and it feels like the seating position is a little bit lower where you can actually put your feet underneath the front row. So I would prefer the seating position inside of the smaller battery pack. But back here you have a couple cool amenities. So you have this panel display over here where you can turn on your heated seats for the second row, and then you can obviously regulate your climate over here. There's two different fan speeds for both the driver and passenger side, which is really nice. And then you can also turn on the heated seats for the middle row located inside of this touchscreen panel, but the quick access buttons are on the left and the right hand side. And then pushing on this little button at the bottom will open up a menu where you can open and close your rear sunshade. So I can tap on the extend rear sunshade button and it will automatically open up. And then also when you put this vehicle into reverse, this sunshade will automatically lower regardless of what setting it's in. Now, another thing to point out back here, this one being the Grand Touring, you do have peasant blockers back here as well, so you can open up these rear sunshades. It makes it a little bit nicer, a little bit darker inside the cabin, which is kind of necessary given this glass roof. And you have vents located over here and inside of the B-pillar as well in typical flagship sedan style. Now, the next thing you should know about this vehicle is the pricing. And that's where it gets a little bit complicated because pricing has changed quite significantly over even the last 6 months. Similar to Tesla, they've been cutting pricing because demand just isn't quite there. As of filming this video in July of 2024, the Lucid Air Pure starts just under $70,000. You can get the Touring for about $78,000. The Grand Touring, which is the vehicle I'm reviewing today, is about $110,000. And then the Lucid Air Sapphire, which is the most powerful version, over 1,000 horsepower, that one's about $250,000. But again, pricing is subject to change. And that brings me to my next point, which is leasing. That is what's really compelling for the Lucid Air. Now, like I mentioned, the demand hasn't quite been there for a flagship electric sedan. And for that reason, Lucid has been offering some incredible lease rates for the Lucid Air, regardless of what trim level you pick, aside from maybe the Sapphire. As of today, you can lease a Lucid Air Pure for about $550 a month with just putting about $5,000 or $6,000 down. So if you're in a state where leasing is available, this is a very compelling option. Or I would recommend buying used, like this particular vehicle at EV Auto, where some of the depreciation has already been hid, and so you can pick up a pretty good deal and have a fantastic sports sedan for under $100,000. So to finish off this video, what are my overall thoughts on the Lucid? Well, like I started this video, I am in love with this car. This is a car that I've really wanted for a while now, and there is one big drawback, and that is the fact that I'm not sure about Lucid as a brand. I think its engineering is incredible, but this vehicle is the perfect case study of even if you have a fantastic product, that doesn't guarantee success. And I think Lucid came out with the right vehicle, but at the wrong time. People aren't really buying luxury EV sports sedans nowadays. They're buying crossovers, hybrids, internal combustions. EVs have kind of fallen into the back burner from the height of their popularity in 2021. And unfortunately, Lucid is kind of one of the casualties of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, I really want this brand to continue to exist. They've engineered some incredible ingenuity inside of this Air, and that's why I love it. I mean, to be able to get all of this packed up into a beautiful aesthetic package is truly amazing. I mean, over 500-mile range in an EV is truly incredible. But I'm worried about resale values, I'm worried about depreciation, and I'm worried about what's going to happen if this brand no longer exists. I mean, their biggest investor is the Saudi investment fund, and what happens when the investment fund chooses to pull out of their investment or maybe not fund any more losses? That's the big question here, and that's really the main reason why I am not buying one of these. If it wasn't for that, I would be in line to buy a Lucid Air Pure or a Lucid Air Touring. I think they're phenomenal vehicles from a design and engineering standpoint. That being said, if you lease a vehicle, it's a really good bargain, because even if the company does happen to go under, you know, you're essentially giving the car back to the manufacturer. You're not having to worry about offloading it, because at the end of the lease, it's not your problem. So that would honestly be my recommendation, or to buy used like this particular vehicle I'm sitting in today, because then you can kind of not worry as much about the depreciation factor, since you're getting a pretty good deal out of the gate. I mean, this car under $100,000 is really a steal, considering, you know, if you compare this to like a Mercedes S-Class, you're going to be paying over $100,000, and you're not going to get the same level of performance or fun as you do in this particular vehicle. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's review of the Lucid Air Grand Touring. It's kind of a dream come true to be able to review one of these, because I've been dying to get my hands on one. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for all of the weekly car videos. Also, if you guys have any questions on this particular vehicle, make sure you leave them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them in other videos. Also, check me out on all the social media at SchwayZ_. And until next time, everybody, I hope you stay SchwayZ, stay healthy, have a wonderful day. Let's go ahead and do one more pull for kicks and giggles. Man, that's fun.